Good morning, everyone. My name is Douglas Ray, and I'm looking forward to facilitating this unit on faith-based educational leadership and morality. It was kind of an interesting topic for me to tackle as I don't have a real background in teaching in faith-based schools. I teach at a secular independent boarding and day school in Alabama. But if you look at independent school missions, regardless of if they are affiliated with any religious group or not, there usually seems to be some mention of morality. For example, our mission here at Indian Springs School says that one of our main goals is to develop a sense of moral courage in our students. If you look at Phillips Exeter Academy's mission, they talk a lot about goodness and what that means in terms of the lives of their students and faculty. Even though we're looking at this through a faith-based lens, I think that there's resonance in all forms of schooling, all forms of education, to really consider what this notion of morality is. To sort of get into this topic, I want to give you a story about something that happened here at my school recently that really got me thinking about how we teach moral courage, or what it looks like to teach morality or to model morality in the 21st century in the age of social media and whatnot. Several weeks ago, we caught wind, we as a faculty, we as an administration, caught wind of the fact that there had been a threat made from one student to another via social media. That only became known to us via a parent intervention and then letting the school know. We acted very quickly, and the threat was diffused, I guess you could say, and no one was harmed. But then we were left with this situation where we have 300 students and 50 or so faculty, and not to mention the broader parent community and the Birmingham community that might have questions. And so we had to really talk about this with our students. So we pulled all of the students together, and our head of school got up and said, it's really easy in some ways to know the difference in good and bad, in right and wrong. That we expect our students to know that. And there's not a lot of moral nuance in many of these issues. But he said in the particular situation that we were talking about, the real problem with it, or the real struggle with it, was that you were making a judgment between two things that were good, two goods, and that was maintaining friendships and camaraderie and a sense of community with one's friends, loyalty to one's friends, the integrity of that relationship. And then there was the other, which is, there is a real potential threat to the community and to my friend, and do I expose that by violating our confidence or whatever? And he suggested that that is a really difficult decision, but that it's really necessary always to err on the side of the greater good. But that may be difficult, for example, for an 8th grader to weigh and see until one knows the real consequences of that. So anyway, all of that to say that I think that this idea of morality in education is really important. When we think about morality, or that which is good versus that which is bad, we often think of religion or faith as informing that, and clearly that there is a lot of basis for that particular argument. And but certainly, if you look at the secular humanists or all sorts of secular ways of thinking, they would say that no, religion and faith do not have the market cornered on those things. So we're talking about an issue that spans all sorts of realms, and I think that really makes this unit important. For the reading, I want us to read 2 chapters in the Feinberg book, For Goodness Sake. The first chapter of Feinberg focuses on religious instruction and moral education. So that brings our two worlds together in a very neat fashion, and it will give us a shared vocabulary to then move our discussion forward. The other chapter that I want us to read, also in Feinberg, is chapter 8, The Challenge of Religious Education for Pluralism. So when we think of the populations that our schools serve, even if they're faith-based, there's going to be a lot of difference even in what might seem to be a homogeneous population. So how do we deal with pluralism in religious education? And how do we deal with competing values? I think that's a really important question. Some of the questions that I want us to think about in discussion, and just as you're thinking about what this topic means to you. The first is, what opportunities or limitations exist in faith-based schools as opposed to secular schools with regard to moral instruction? The second question is, in a faith-based educational environment, what sort of tension could develop around issues of morality, and how could that tension be resolved? And feel free to provide any specific examples you've encountered or examples from the readings that you may have seen. When I think about the idea of morality and what its influence can be, I think back to a historical moment, or when we take a moral text or a religious text like the New Testament, and I'm thinking of the Pauline epistles, and where we see the idea of the Great Commission given, which is to go into all the nations and spread the gospel and to proselytize and convert people. That the Great Commission, while it's has a very good intention, can be manipulated. And you think of what happened in the Middle Ages. We had the Crusades, and we had a lot of bloodshed, or what we certainly deem as a moral bad, justified by something that is intended to be very good. So there's always going to be this negotiation that exists when we're dealing with morality, and I think that's what makes it a very rich topic for us to discuss as educators and as educational leaders and thinkers and researchers. So I look forward to seeing you all in the discussion board, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. Thanks.